There we go. Welcome, everybody, to the March 21st, 2023 Board of Commissioners meetings. Please silence your cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas and speaker request forms are located at the back of the chambers. The commission now utilizes speaker request forms. If you would like to speak on an item, please complete a speaker's request form located on the bookshelf at the back of the chambers and return it to the commission manager, Holly Hennies, located at the lower right side of the dais. At this moment, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start off with a moment of silence, of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, done by Mr. Gary Drews.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Drews. Next, we have on our agenda the review and approval of the agenda. Is there any public comments on the agenda? See none. Any comments from the commission? Any additions or minus? So none. I'd look for a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Travis Lassiter, seconded by Mr. Drews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, that brings us to the consent agenda that's going to be presented by Ms. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of March 7th, 2023. Number 6 is to approve the modification number 001 to the Cooperative Forest Road Agreement 18-R0-1102-0300-23 as submitted by the Highway Department. Number 7 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of February 2023. Number 8 is to acknowledge the John T. Vakurovich Foundation Drug Court Grant has been transferred over to the Pennington County Drug Treatment Court Association, and further authorize the Auditor's Office to issue a check to the Pennington County Drug Treatment Court Association in the amount of $2,229.99, which is the remaining balance of the John T. Vakurovich Foundation Drug Court funds received by Pennington County in 2022. Number 9 is approval of the joint powers agreement for weed spraying services between the South Dakota Department of Transportation and Pennington County. And number 10 is to declare 5 vehicles as surplus for the purpose of trade. A 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe, asset number 09160, 2016 Ford Explorer, asset 36629, 2016 Chevy Tahoe, asset 31984, 2017 Ford Explorer, asset 86217, and finally, 2017 Ford Explorer, asset number 86218, as presented by the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Holly. At this time, is there any member of the public who wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there any commissioners who wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Laster to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda item is the presentation of Adopt a Highway Program Certificates of Appreciation by Ms. Ginny Merrill. Did I pronounce that right? Jenny.
Yep.
Oh, okay, thanks,
morning.
Jenny.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Merrill. I am the Administrative Assistant for the Highway Department, and we are here today to recognize those who have volunteered with the Adopt a Highway program in this last year. We appreciate all their efforts in keeping the roadways clean. In 2022, there were 50 organizations who participated in the program and collected trash along 119.54 miles of county roads. There are presently 8 sections of roadway that are available for adoption, And a map is posted on the Pennington County website to see available roads, and anyone who is interested in volunteering can contact the highway office. And I believe there's 14 representatives of those organizations here this morning, and I'd like to present them with awards of appreciation. And those who are not able to attend today, they'll get their certificates in the mail.
Well, thank you, Jenny.
Yes.
You may,
Okay, first up, we have 28 CPTS. Are they here today? Yay.
CPTS.
It's Constable Squadron Finance.
Okay. Next is 28 Munitions Squadron from the Ellsworth Air Force Base. Next is the 28th Logistics Readiness Squadron. Okay, the Air Force Sergeants Association. The Black Hills Clean Water Alliance. Black Hills Energy.
and Jenny, just so they know afterwards, if they could stick around, we'd like to have a picture with the commissioners back up here after this.
The Hargens family. The Hart Ranch Camping Resort Club. South Dakota Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 2. Okay. Let's see. South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, American Indian Science and Engineering Society. Okay. South Dakota School of Mines and Technology student members of the American Chemical Society. Yay. Thank you. Silver City Fire Department. WL Plastics. And these were some maybes that didn't know if they'd be able to make it, but we'll read them anyway. Cosmopolitan Club. Rapid Valley United Methodist Church. And the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology Weather Association. Oh, okay. We're ready for a picture, unless you have questions.
Well, no, thank you, Jenny, for doing this. And like you said, there's over 50 organizations with
Yes.
154 miles. You folks clean up this and the roadways and keep our area clean. So it's very much appreciated. With that, I'll let the commissioner, any commissioners have a comment or.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
well, having District 1 in that's my district, and it's in the hills, you really appreciate
Yes.
the folks doing this because in 1 year, you cannot believe how much garbage. And if somebody wasn't out there picking it up on an annual
Yes.
basis, it would not be pretty for the tourists to look at. So
Yep.
thank you for all your efforts, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I second that.
Thank you, folks. Yeah, now if you please come up and we'll come up here so you can have a picture with the commission, show our appreciation of you. I think it's easier up here.
Oh, up there?
Jenny, you can come up. Jenny?
Tell us how you want us, Holly. You want the chairs out of the way?
Squeeze together if you would, please.
We need to face each other.
He's tall, so I'm gonna be.
Works for me, yeah.
More in?
Oh, I gotcha. All right, everybody smile, say cheese. Great, thank you.
Thank you. She gave me that picture. You can just hold it. I've only had 2 phone calls.
So many groups that
Few days
Yeah.
to do it again, so, and 2 new people, 2 new organizations. So that's good.
Great.
Well, I did reach out to Joe
Thank you.
yesterday, but I was in meetings most of the day, but evidently he's gonna.
Thank you, Holly.
Okay, so you don't have to bring it up then. I wouldn't bring it up today. Everybody's aware.
Thank you, folks, for all you do. We appreciate it. And Holly will get that picture out so your organization's requested from Jenny, and then she can get it sent out to you. Next on our agenda is item number 12, the status hearing for the application to establish a right-of-way to an isolated tract pursuant to SDL CL-32-22-1 Cross Sabers LLP, and this was continued from 3/7/23 Board of Commissioners meeting. At this point, I'm going to recognize Quentin Riggins.
Thank you.
Mr. Reagan's.
Thank you, Commissioners. Last week, myself, members of my client's group, Mr. Collins and his client had a telephone conference in an effort to try to move forward with some resolutions or options for resolution in this matter. I think it was a productive discussion. We're in the process of getting some engineered drawings over to Mr. Collins and his client with the hopes that maybe we can get some resolution in this matter. With that being said, Mr. Collins and I also discussed the fact that we should probably put an end date on this. So if discussions don't work, we've got a final day when we're going to have this heard before the commission. Looking at scheduling, both Mr. Collins and I are unavailable at the next meeting. Mr. Collins' client is unavailable at the second meeting in April. If we could set this for a final hearing at the first meeting in May, we'll either have it resolved or we'll be before this group to get it resolved at that time.
So you're looking at May 2nd meeting.
Yes,
That'd be my motion.
I believe that's the case. I have Mr. Collins is here as well.
Yeah, and I would, just for the councils, we're going to discuss how that, if it's a hearing, it'll be kind of contested, the time that might take, and we'll work with the county attorney to kind of inform the council of what to expect and the time we would need and set it, things of that nature, and
So
work on
you'll-
those parameters.
Both parties to be ready.
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor made by Deb Hadcock, seconded by Lassiter for the May 2nd.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now for discussion, now I'll let you guys follow up with, so you'll have the end date, May 2nd, and communicate with our staff to bring this to a resolution, one way or another.
Right, we'll work to try and resolve it. I agree with Mr. Riggins' representations that we've had some productive discussions. We'll try and get it done. If not, we'll have the hearing and we'll work with staff to help organize how that will go, as there will be quite a few people that probably will talk to the commission about that.
Okay. I see our attorney sitting back. Jay, did you have any comments, Jay Alderman?
Jay Aldrin with the State's Attorney's Office. We're all very hopeful, obviously, that this can work out and be the best for everybody. But with regard to that date in May, just so everybody knows, it probably couldn't be literally resolved on that day. That would be kind of the start of
Yeah.
the hearings, if you would, because there's still the issue out there if it's contested. Are they isolated or not? Then you got to pick a route, and there's been multiple routes discussed. You got to pick a route, and it has criteria. Then you have to assess damages to that route, and that means an appraiser has to probably be hired and assessed. So it definitely will take quite a while after that for you to make those decisions, because that's going to be witnesses and the parties having different folks come up and talking about. So it isn't, I want to make sure no one thought that it was actually going to be done on that day. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
I would suggest at that meeting that we have Rich Zacher with South Dakota DOT, because there's going to be a lot of discussion, and we need somebody from South Dakota DOT to be there to represent South Dakota DOT and different types of access that'd be possible off of 385.
I think that's correct. I think you may also need someone from Game Fish and Parks relative to the Mickelson Trail, given its involvement as well.
I'm giving a little leniency on a continuation motion because I think it's given some direction. So does anybody else have any other comments? I agree with Jay. Hopefully you come up with a solution, because otherwise this could go on into the fall, quite frankly. So it sounds like there's a motion on the floor to continue to May 2nd. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean, next we come up to the items from the highway. And I think the first three items are the annual bids. But then after following that, we have 7 motions for supplies. So I think when I was going through them, there's some explanation on at least a couple of those. But I think the commission's very well aware of and read through their paperwork, and it's well advertised.
Okay. Yep, yeah, item A is our 2023 annual bid award recommendations. We opened bids Thursday, March 9th. It kind of happened with what we expected. Prices have gone up. Materials have gone up. Just kind of an idea, our crack seal for our projects. We did 3 projects: the crack seal, the surface treatment, or the chip seal, and then the milling and reclaiming. Crack sealing, the bid actually came in under our estimate, but it did increase, looking at $1.60 per pound of material to $1.67 from last year. So surface treatment, that one came in considerably higher. Last year, for about the same mileage, it was about $919,000. This year came in at 1.26. Milling and reclaiming, this one was another one that came in actually under what we had estimated for it. So we're looking to do 17 miles of Sage Creek. And this project came in at about $275,000. So, and as far as supplies go, just kind of an update on a few of the items that we saw. The 3/4-inch base course last year was $9.50 a ton. This year came in at $10 a ton, so increased by 50 cents. Our composite was $90 a ton last year. It's up to $108 a ton. Maintenance material last year was $62 a ton. This year, $68.50. Concrete pipe, $23.46, up this year to $26.93. So kind of across the board, everything material-wise is going up. As far as the item that probably needed to be discussed was our asphalt concrete composite bid. We received 3 bids. We did have an addendum that was sent out. As part of that addendum, we requested that acknowledgement be made on the front of the envelope that we received. J&J Asphalt did not put the acknowledgement on the front of the envelope, but they did submit the addendum proposal sheet. So they did show that they did get it. They just did not acknowledge it. So in this instance, they were the low bidder for above 500 tons for both binders. And with the significant savings to the county, we are recommending approval for that, for those 2 line items, as well as the trucking for it, and then awarding to Western Construction for the other tonnage.
Could you touch a little bit on, I think you've gotten some no bids items?
There are some items, I think fencing and bridge bridge materials, we had no bids on
And
those.
so how are you guys gonna address that?
As it comes out, we'll reach out for estimates, and look to get quotes from contractors based on the projects that we have come up.
Okay. At this point, is there any members from the public who'd have a comment on, well, we'll take up each item separately, but is there anybody in the audience that has something that's specific they want to bring to my attention to pull? Commissioners? No? With that, I think what we're going to do is we're going to start through, we have to make a verbal motion for each one. And if at any time you need to stop us, Sean, please do.
Okay.
I'd look for
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Drews.
I'd move to award ASC 2023 asphalt service crack ceiling to Highway Improvement, Inc. of Sioux Falls in the amount of $249,281.60.
Second.
Moved by Drews, seconded by Lassiter. Any comments from public, commission? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lassiter.
move to award AST 2023 asphalt surface treatment to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota, in the amount of $1,264,213.25.
Moved by Lassiter,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any public comment? Seeing none, any commissioners? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Mr.
Aye.
Chair,
Mr. Mr. Roskinek.
move to award MR 2023 milling reclaiming Sage Creek Road to All States Paving, Recycling, and Stabilization out of Rogers, Minnesota.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Lassiter. Any public comment? Any commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Now we're underneath supply, 2023 supplies, motion number 4.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lassiter.
move to award AS 2023-01 aggregate materials as follows. Item number 1, to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota. Item number 2 and number 4, to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota, and Western Construction, Inc., Clapperich Pit and Kanochi Pit, Rapid City, South Dakota, based on location. Item number 3 to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota, and item number 5 to Western Construction, Inc., Clapperich Pit and Kanochi Pit, Rapid City, South Dakota, based on location.
Second.
Moved by Lassiter, seconded by Drews. Any comment from public? Any from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item number 5,
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
Move to award AS 2023-02 asphalt concrete composite as follows. Items number 1 through 4, 7, 10, 13, and 16 through 25 to J&J Asphalt Company of Rapid City, based on simulated project costs, and items number 1 through 6, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17 through 25 to Western Construction, Inc., Rapid City, based on simulated project costs.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
seconded by Lassiter. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair,
Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Roskinek.
move to award AS 2023-03 asphalt maintenance materials as follows. Items number 1, 2, and 3 to J&J Asphalt Company of Rapid City, South Dakota, and item number 4 to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota.
Moved by Roskinek,
Second.
seconded by Lassiter. Any public comment? Any commission comment? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Item number 7, Mr. Lassiter.
move to award AS 2023-04 base stabilization material to Team Lab Chemical Corp., Bismarck, North Dakota.
Second.
Moved by Lassiter, seconded by Drews. Any public comment? Any commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Drews.
Move to award AS 2023-05 precast concrete pipe and bridge products to Rinker Materials, Rapid City.
second.
Moved by Drew, seconded by Lassiter. Any public comment? Any commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinick.
move to award AS 2023-06 cutback and emulsified asphalt to Simon Contractors of South Dakota, Rapid City, Simon's Contractors of South Dakota, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota.
Moved by Roskinick, seconded by Drews. Any public comment? Seeing none, any commission? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 10,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
move to award AS 2023-07 de-icing sand to Western Construction, Inc., Rapid City, South Dakota.
Moved by Lassiter,
Second.
seconded by Roskinick. Any public comment? Seeing none, any commission? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 11,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Drews.
move to award AS 2023-IO Dust Ice Control Solution to Dustbusters Enterprises, Inc. of Evanston, Wyoming.
Second.
Moved by Drews, seconded by Lassiter. Any public comment? Seeing none, any commission comment? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we come to item B, which is construction change order for Sheridan Lake Road reconstruction project. Sean.
Yep, item B is our second to last change order for this project. The change order is for request for $447,746.10. We will have one final change order coming that will be a negative change order, for $487,000. That should be coming here hopefully in the near future. So that'll bring this project to $22.6 million approximately, which is about $200,000 less than the engineered estimate and contract price. This is large in part due to the efforts of the South Dakota DOT and Ferber Engineering for their excellent administration of this construction project. We're looking to hopefully have a similar experience with the South Rockford Road project, which is set to let open bid letting tomorrow. So with that, I'll stand for any questions on this change order.
Is there any questions for Sean? I got one comment, Sean. As I was reading through this, one of the reasons why some of the costs stayed in the bid process was because they reclaimed a lot of the base course and were able to reuse quite a bit more than what was estimated. So
Yep.
the reclamation of a lot of that's helped saved our.
Yes, yep. Yep, and that was part of the design process was to save as much as we could. And we're looking to do similar efforts on South Rockford Road with the little material we do have up there, is reclaim that and repurpose it, so.
Okay, that's one thing I noticed, but we appreciate all the hard work that you guys all put in on this.
Thanks.
Is there any further comments or questions for Sean?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinick.
I'll go ahead and move to approve construction change order number 10 for the Sheridan Lake Road reconstruction project in the amount of $447,746.10.
Second.
Moved by Roskinick, seconded by Laster. Any public comment? Any further comments from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, that brings us to item number C. Sean, authorization to purchase bentonite.
Yep, item C, so we contracted with Timberline Services to produce 45,000 ton of surface gravel for up in the hills. And what we found up in the hills is that that limestone gravel has little to no PI or plasticity index in it. So we have to add clay material to it. And in talking with South Dakota LTAP, they suggested maybe we do a trial with bentonite to see how, see if it'll be good for that area that, of the county. We're looking, bentonite is a clay material that has a great binder characteristics and it's very high in plasticity. So we're looking to try and test out about 10,000 ton of the crushed material up there. So we'll need to purchase about 200 ton of bentonite. That gets shipped in from Wyoming as the sole source, pretty much the sole source for that. And then we do have a clay material for the remaining 35,000 ton, so that we can at least increase our PI. But this is just an alternative that we're looking to try.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. Is there any questions for Sean from the commission? Sean, I think and Joe, we talked about this quite a while back, and I think you guys brought it to our attention for this trial, so we're anxious to see how it works out for keeping the dust control. That's one of the biggest ones, so.
Sure.
With that, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Oh, hold on.
I'll go ahead and read the motion then. Move to authorize the purchase of 200 tons of bentonite from Doe's Remediation LLC as a sole source of procurement due to the sole availability in the region in the amount of $65,500.
It's moved by Rosknecht and seconded by Drews. Is there any any public comment? Any further comment from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you,
Commission.
Sean. Thank you, Joe. That worked out pretty good for us for as long as list as you guys had. So, next comes to item number 14. These are items from the auditor, and I'd recognize Cindy Mullen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. Before you, I have a request to do an operating transfer in the amount of $3,030,000 from the general fund to the capital projects fund. And this is an offset of the revenue that we had in 22 from the ARPA funds. We designated those funds to general operating expenditures in the general fund, which freed up some of the other revenues that we had, so we can move that money over to the capital projects fund to fund some of these projects we have on the horizon.
Chairman.
Ms. Hadcock.
So on the projects, do we have, I know we have didn't we have a $45 million bond for projects?
We have about 43 million is the actual cash in the bank from that, yes.
Okay, and then we have the reserves on 45 million would be 9 million to put in unassigned. Is the 20%?
That we only look at unassigned fund balance in the general fund.
Okay,
And we will have that covered. Well, I haven't estimated that we will have approximately that much at the end of this year.
is 9 million. Are you having approximately 45 million available for future projects? And I'm estimating that will be 20% of reserves and unassigned. The 20% is 9 million, or how much is the reserve?
I didn't write down what that was, but yeah, it will equal 20% of this year's budget in the general fund only.
Okay. I'm not against this. I'm just looking at the 2023 budget. We have 500,000 for Silver City, 4% COLA for employees. We know we only have HR employee, that's news, we have raised employee wages this year. We have inflation because of utilities. I'm trying to figure out at this time, and maybe you have some idea of those costs for 2023 and where our reserves are at this point, or unassigned fund balance.
The estimate that I gave you is based on, I took into consideration the 500,000, so that's subtracted out of our unassigned fund balance, and then the 4% COLA that was not approved at the time we did budget last year. So I took into account what departments anticipated they might need for a supplement, so that's not a guaranteed, and I think there was about $650,000 there.
Okay.
And I know there are some departments that said they would be able to absorb that increase.
Okay. At this point, we're putting more money into the capital projects fund. Can you take money out of the capital projects fund in case you need more for?
Once it's over there, it would need to remain there.
That's what I'm worried about just to make sure reserves and unassigned is okay for 2023, without transferring that or not knowing what that is right now with all those increases. Are we gonna need the 3,030,000 to be left in general fund?
That's a decision that the commissioners are going to need to make. My estimate is we will be at our 20% at the end of 2023.
Okay, I guess, and I should have asked the numbers and had you run the numbers beforehand, Cindy. I'm not willing to make that decision today. I kind of like to see where the capital improvement fund is, and then where our reserves and our unassigned is before I say that I want to put it in capital fund, and then we need it more for the employee wages and the inflation of the utilities and some of the other stuff that we've already spent the money on. So maybe, is there a problem with continuing this till the next meeting?
Absolutely not a problem.
Just, I guess for me, to know those answers is gonna be huge before we transfer it out of and put it into a different fund, for capital, projects fund. I'd like to see and make sure that we're doing okay in our unassigned and our reserves before I transfer it over. That's me personally.
Well, so we got one commissioner would like a continuous. There's no motion, so I'll open it up for discussion first before
That'd be fine.
that motion comes up. Is there any further discussion from the commissioner, questions for Cindy? Mr. Drews?
Well, I think our goal was to try to stay around that 20% as far as the reserve, so I'm comfortable with this, but I don't have any objection to continuing it either.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek?
I guess whatever information that Cindy produces, I just want to make sure that all the commissioners get that same information so that when we do got to make a decision, we're all looking at the same information.
Okay, Mr. Laster?
Cindy, what was our projected reserve balance with the projected budget when we did it? What was that number? Not 20%. It was, I don't know which way it was at.
It was right at that 20%. I think it was
18.76
maybe just a
or
little
something
bit
like that.
below, but it wasn't.
I get it, it
off
was
that mark.
close. I was just wondering if, you know, because if it was like 21 and then we're at 20 versus if it was at 18 and then we're at 20, then it shows that we're doing better if we have a higher reserve
I can
fund.
certainly go back and look at that and bring that forward at the
Yeah,
next
I mean,
meeting if you'd like.
I would like to just kind of see how we did in our budget, because if we were at 18, let's say our projected was 18.5 and we ended up being at 20, that means we actually did better in our budget. So it makes sense that we could consider something like this rather than if we were projecting 21.5 and then we're down to 20, that means we're overspending. So I'd like to see where we thought we would be versus where we're at, what this would do.
I can certainly bring that.
Okay.
And I'll
Mike?
come and talk with you, Cindy, that way everybody has all the information and,
Okay.
we're
We can
kind
get
of
it all
looking at
down.
everything.
You bet.
And some of the, sorry, Lloyd, I forgot to say, Chairman. So just because we have some compensation changes and stuff too, that might be affecting some of that as well. So that we were kind of looking, I think Holly, if I'm correct, and Cindy are working on some of that already, but it'd be nice to see some of those numbers or at least get a guesstimate, not an exact amount, because that always changes a little bit, but just a guesstimate on what we're thinking.
Okay, I'm the only one that hasn't commented. That's good. So I don't see a problem with continuing to get more information. More information is helpful, but it makes everybody comfortable. And it sounds like there's no problem with continuing this on to the next meeting. But I think it is prudent that the other commissioners kind of get a summary of some of the discussions back to us. So next meeting we can take action. Because I do remember that 20% we were below it, and I think the county's doing a good job of watching their pennies. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. With that being said, is there any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
move to
Roskinek.
continue until April the 4th, 2023.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Lassiter to continue to the April 4th meeting. Any public comment? Any more from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cindy.
Thank you, Miss Cindy.
Next, on our agenda is that number item 15. It's items from building committee. And I'll recognize Kevin Burton and Mike Cool.
Good morning, Mike Cool, Director of Pennington County Buildings and Grounds. I'm going to let Kevin kind of give you a rundown on the process that we've gone through to bring this forward to you.
Morning, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, Project Manager. Last meeting, I brought forth the Building Committee had suggested that we have an interview committee to go through the RFP for our 900 concourse design. to choose our architect for that. We did interviews of two companies, TSP and Arc International. The team felt TSP would do the best job for us. I have their proposals here if anybody would like to see them. Mark Everett is in the audience if anybody has any questions of him. But it is the recommendation of the interview committee to move forward with TSP. This will be for schematic design only. That helps us identify how the building gets separated, where departments go, and be able to get a closer estimate on that initial cost. And then we'll come back before you to move through the other design phases and construction administration, once we have those costs identified.
Thanks, Kevin. Commissioners have any questions for Kevin?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
so going forward with the TSP, they will have the understanding that we want to utilize just as much as personal property or FF&E as possible in the
Yes,
going
sir.
forward?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay,
And then they also have an in-house estimator.
right.
So we're not dealing with third-party estimator or going to local contractors. They have an estimator that's their full-time position. So that gives me great hope that we'll be able to establish a budget that's really close to what our end result's going to be.
You finished? Oh, go ahead.
So how many rooftop units are there?
I believe there's 45.
So we want our goal is to use those as much as possible and not go to some alternative HVAC system.
Correct. And they were all replaced in 2017.
Okay.
Done, Rod?
Yeah.
Ms. Hadcock.
I'd just like to thank Mike and Kevin for all the work they've done. They've come a long ways. This took a lot of work to get where we are today. And without you two, Kevin being the project manager, Mike being the buildings and ground top guy. Director. I have a problem with that, don't I, Brian? So I don't know if people know how much work it takes to get just where they are today, let alone what has to come next. So that's why I said I'm not against the buildings or putting money towards the buildings. Main thing is that I know with Kevin and Mike working together, it'll be done efficiently and effectively. So thank you for all your work you guys done. Again, if you've seen all the papers up here, we've had 5 or 10 different papers on different things for architect and just looking at the properties and just going and visiting the properties and then looking what is good or bad in the properties to replace and then to remodel the whole thing so it's efficient and effective for Pennington County. That is no small feat. So thank you both for all the work you put into this. It takes a lot. Kevin, you've been on site 100 times at least, so thank you for all your time for doing that. I know people call it your job, but some people can do their job and not do it as efficiently as you guys. So I appreciate everything both of you have done.
Thanks, Deb. Commissioners, any other commissioners have a comment?
I need another tour, Kevin. Please.
We do have two motions on this. I'll let you explain a little bit on the second one, but I'd take a motion first on this one. If somebody would be willing to.
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
I'd move to authorize Mike Cool, Director of Buildings and Grounds, to execute an AIA standard form of agreement between Pennington County and TSP Architecture, Engineering and Planning, Inc. for professional services outlined in TSP Architecture, Engineering and Planning, Inc. proposal dated February 16, 2023 for the 900 concourse remodel project with a lump sum fee of $35,000 plus any applicable reimbursable expenses utilizing construction building funds.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Drews, seconded by Roskinek. Any public comment? Any further from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Did you want to explain a little bit, Mike, on?
Of course, when we move through these projects, sometimes we need more information or we got to take a different direction. So I am also asking for some ability to, or asking for design and administrative decision-making authority relative to this project. So things that we need to do in order to facilitate it moving forward. that I have an authorization of an additional, or expenditure authority up to $50,000. That would include the $35,000 that's, you just approved.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock.
is it state law for 50,000, Mike? Or
Is-
can it, why I'm saying that is if you're trying to do a building, you're trying to be efficient and effective in time. 50,000 is not that, it's a lot of money, I understand, but when you're doing projects like this, it's not a lot of leeway for things that you need to move forward with. Is it, is it state
There
law for
isn't,
50,000?
$50,000 doesn't apply to professional services relative to, I think you're thinking of $50,000 limit relative to supplies.
So is that efficient at 50,000 or,
$50,000, we don't anticipate that there'd be any need for any additional funds with that. Our goal is to understand what we need to do for a project, bring that back to you guys so you have an understanding of how much money we think we're gonna have to spend to make this building function to meet our needs.
I guess I said it, everything you've done, Mike, since I've been here, and that's been a while. You've been very efficient and effective of what you've done. So at this point, for me, there's a trust factor with you, and what you've done so far, that I didn't know if 50,000 would be efficient. Because when you're trying, again, when you're trying to move those projects forward, and you have to keep coming back for 25 or 50 when it might be 76 or something like that, to me, whatever is efficient for you guys in order to move forward with some of this. I mean, the public needs to know how much we're spending. They always will. There will always be money or line items for anything they need to look. So it's not like you're trying to hide anything, or we are. We just want to make sure this is done efficiently and effectively as well for the future.
Ms. Hadcock, I think I know where you're going. What she's talking about, Mike, is your spending authority.
Yes.
You know, being able to have a limit to where you don't have to come to the commission to ask this, because I think we're starting to see quite a bit. That's what I think where Ms. Hadcock's coming from is, I think you're doing this because you want to be forthcoming and so forth, but I don't think there's a problem with it.
Yeah, I appreciate, thank you for your trust in what we're doing and that we're gonna be, open with the commission and the public in regard to how we're trying to do this. We're trying to understand the implications of trying to move the departments of this building into that building and,
Right.
one of the goals outlined from the RFP process they went through was asking those kind of questions. How are we going to do that? Move it forward. So through that will be some estimates in the end where we're talking about millions of dollars that we're estimating that project's going to be about, and we're trying to. We want to give you guys an idea of the scope of the size that this thing's going to turn into through this process.
Right, and I agree with that, but the spending authority for me, so you're not spending 2 weeks or having to wait till the next meeting to agree with 35,000 or 50,000. To me, you could just keep moving forward. If the building committee, you guys have a building committee also, so you have checks and balances there. I don't know what that, again, what the spending authority is, but some of this, Mike, I think, could be moved forward if it doesn't have to come to this commission.
Okay,
Does that
thanks.
make sense?
I do. I think I understand what you're saying, and that this is is likely a percentage based fee. That's a matter of determining what that scope of the project is and how much we think it's going to bid for.
And that bottom line is what we have to see, and we have to show the public, and then it will have all your fees and all your things, so we wouldn't be hiding anything or anything like that as commissioners or as buildings and grounds people. It's always in there. So
Yeah.
if you can move forward without having to approve the smaller amounts to get this project moving and get it done, I mean, that's what most people do. I think you guys can do it efficiently, effectively, and like I said, the building committee, you have 2 commissioners, plus you have a bunch of department heads and other professionals in there, then it seems like you're spending a lot of time, like Lloyd said, coming in here and improving some of these amounts that I think we want to know about in a sense, but they can be sent through emails and stuff unless publicly we have to approve it.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair,
Okay. You done, Deb? Mr. Roskinek?
Mike, would the 50,000 cover the 15,000 allocated to the BKV group then, which is the next item?
Technically, yes, it would, in terms of that spending authority. So, I guess that probably,
Doesn't need to be there.
Because they're different
I mean, we are asking it as a separate
Okay,
thing. So we did note in here that this component covers the $35,000, and in there we did not note in regard to the $15,000 BKV, that fee, what that fee would be. So I guess I would ask that between the two
right.
stated fees are approved, and we still have the $15,000 of authority to
Right.
above those amounts.
Incidentals.
If I could add an explanation. So the proposal that we received was based on the programming that we had done by BKV. But we haven't really got into the actual architect interviewing the departments, looking at the space, seeing what's existing. So they based a fee based on some initial programming, but that could grow in scope depending on how the departments are starting to develop and see how this building expands. So that extra $15,000 might give us that additional scope
Okay.
amount to finalize schematic design, because once we start getting in there, we might see some things that need to change different from what the original programming was. So as that programming expands and as we get more detail, we're asking for that additional amount of spending authority to be able to just keep that schematic design process going should we reach the end of that initial $35,000 fee.
Okay, Mr. Roskinek?
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
to authorize Mike Cool, Director of Buildings and Grounds, to have the design and administrative decision-making authority for the 900 Concourse remodel project, including signing application documents and necessary agreements, and expenditure authority up to $50,000, includes TSP contract as the county's representative.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Hadcock. Any further discussion?
One more thing, sorry.
What?
One more, sir.
I'm going to make a comment before, but you
Go
go
ahead.
back your
No, you
second
go.
time. I think what, I was going to interject to get us back on track, but that got us to where we needed to be. But I think what I'm hearing is, from this commission is, you need to take a look at some of these authorities, spending authorities. And not only for buildings and grounds, but also for the highway department to see, maybe we need to set a spending authority before, a threshold before it comes to the commission. These are just some of the things that I think would be good common practices, I think, in order to move forward. That's not saying that you're not giving us the information, it's just take a look at it.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying, is take a look at some of this stuff, and that's what I was kind of hearing. With that, I'll pass on to Ms. Hadcock.
Based on BKV and the schematics and what you guys are doing for the remodel, are you taking into account for future, all the numbers that they were saying futuristically for 23, 24, 25 in the remodel?
Go ahead.
We are trying to look out to the full scope of our needs assessment plan, which is essentially 20 years.
Because I looked at buildings and grounds, not buildings and grounds, planning. And remember, they're gonna probably for the future add inspectors and different things to theirs. So hopefully we're thinking out of the box and maybe a little bit further for the future, because that's what happened with this building. It grew that fast. So especially when they want to expand Rapid City and expand the different areas, even for Pennington County and different developments and stuff. So just food for thought.
The building does give us the square footage we need for the 20-year growth plus additional square footage remaining. So that's a real benefit to us. The way the departments lay out, they all meet the 20-year programming plus some additional square footage, so that they still have some internal room. I believe that our schematic design is probably going to plan for that 20-year growth where all the offices, where all of those spaces will be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the construction documents. We may not build all the offices at that time for budgetary reasons.
So Mike, what was the plan for this building to last for?
Initially, I think we were looking at trying to look out 15 years. You know, this was complicated in regard to, the first thing I would start out saying is that the environment was completely different than we see right now in terms of the growth expectations.
Right.
This one was kind of looked out at 15 years. The way that it was presented was how growth was represented within the departments. A lot of our spaces got labeled as meeting spaces until they were needed as an office space. Well, the board at the time, this is just one of the things that became a little bit of an issue, is didn't understand why that stuff was needed, was those additional meeting spaces were needed, and asked for them to be reduced. That helped cut out some growth.
Yeah, and the planning of it was also, we ran out of some funding, not we, but back then they ran out of funding. So just making sure we're preparing for the future, but also have the funding source in order to not do like we did last time. If I could remember, they changed their mind on a bunch of stuff because they ran out of some funding. Well, that's not going to help if we plan for the growth and then did it again. Like, kind of like you said, the growth was a lot different than we thought, and we ended up needing a new building right away. Just making sure we're planning ahead for that and not saying, okay, now we don't have enough money, we can't do this, this, and this. That would be bad if we didn't plan ahead for that.
Yeah, I think there's a major distinguishable difference between those two. This was a new build, so you're looking at every additional square footage being new addition, new square footage added. We were able to get the additional or the existing square footage of that building for $92 a square foot, which is considerably better than anything you can build today.
Yes.
And that allowed us that opportunity to already have that square footage built in for those departments to be able to expand. So we're not coming here saying, well, every square foot, we're looking at an additional $400. No, we already have that built into the building.
Well, that's what I think I needed to hear again, and that the public needed to hear for schematics and the thing for the future for the remodel, that we already have that extra room. If we need it, we're not going to be behind the curve, we're going to be above the curve.
And then being able to repurpose this building, which still has really good bones, meets the future growth of other departments within the county. So this building is not going to get shelled or sold or anything like that. It does get repurposed, and it really fits the needs of the county.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we come to design services proposals, BKV Group. Mr. Cool.
As part of the BKV Group was the firm that we utilized to develop the needs assessment for the county. That is kind of an ongoing process in regard to as we find ways of trying to address the needs. 900 Concourse being one of those that's been identified. We'd like a clean handoff in terms of the information they develop through the needs assessment, and have them participate in as we begin moving forward with that project in terms of understanding what the county needs to address its issues or growth needs going forward. So this is a not to exceed number. We don't expect that we will spend this full amount. But it does allow us some latitude going forward to include BKV in the process of helping us define the needs and making sure that we're getting everything addressed.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any questions for the commission?
Chairman,
See, Mrs. Hadcock.
motion to authorize Mike Cole, Director of Pennington County Buildings and Grounds Department, to execute the AIA standard form of agreement between Pennington County and BKV Group Incorporated for professional services outlined in the BK Group Incorporated proposal dated February 14, 2023 for 900 concourse remodel project with a not-to-exceed fee of $15,000 plus any applicable reimbursable expenses utilizing construction building funds.
Second.
Second, moved by Hadcock, second by Drews. Any public comment? Seeing none, any from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, the Pivot Point Crisis Stabilization Center Maintenance Agreement. Mr. Cool.
So Buildings and Grounds is seeking authorization of a maintenance agreement for the Pivot Point Crisis Stabilization Center, which has recently been completed. The general outline of how this would work, the program, this agreement generally outlines how costs will be handled relative to that facility. As the board is aware, this building was essentially paid for with money from outside of Pennington County as a whole, but the building does belong to Pennington County. So to protect this asset for Pennington County, we're looking at having Buildings and Grounds maintain the exterior, the grounds, snow removal, and generally maintain the systems. Overall, the behavior management systems is responsible for the costs of any work that needs to be done inside the building, taking care of that. This agreement outlines those parameters. We will continue to work to define how this relationship is going to work, the details of that through this next year, and then reevaluate the agreement again in a year.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any questions for Mike on the agreement? Any public comment? I'd look for a motion from the commission.
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
Move to approve the maintenance agreement for Pivot Point Crisis Stabilization Center between Pennington County and Behavioral Management Systems.
Second.
Moved by Drews, seconded by Roskinick. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Thanks Buildings Grounds for all they do and your staff. Next, we come to items from Human Resources, and I'll recognize Ms. Carol Bancroft.
Thank you. Carol Bancroft, HR Director for Pennington County. And so the first item is the elected officials wage resolution. But I want to draw your attention to that in the March 7th meeting, that the Board of Commissioners, I had submitted a request to review as far as the minimum annual salary for our elected officials. And so that was actually out of order. And so we need to rescind that motion and approval and then move forward today. So the motion could read that I move to rescind the motion in approval of the update to the 2023 minimum annual base salary for the Pennington County elected officials, which was made on March 7th of 2023.
March 7th.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
I heard Drews and I heard Hadcock. So we have a motion by Drews, second by Hadcock to withdraw that motion from March 7th, as you stated. Is there any public comment on that? Any further comment from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries, so we've rescinded that motion.
Thank you. So the motion that's in front of the commissioners today is that for the elected officials, that a comprehensive review and wage study was done as far as what the minimum annual salaries were for 2023. So the recommendation is to move forward with approving that we would increase those and update that particular resolution. So what I am looking for is to have the motion that I move to update the 2023 annual minimum base salary for the Pennington County elected officials to include the county auditor to 91,000, the county register of deeds to 91,000, and the county sheriff coroner to 135,000, and the county state's attorney to 135,000, and the county treasurer to 91,000. I also would request that you would have a motion that could read, I move to allow the board chairperson to apply their signature to the Pennington County elected officials' updated wage policy resolution for 2023.
Is there any questions for Carol?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Jules?
is that going to require two motions, or can we do that all in one?
For a signature and I think I'll take that up at two separate motions. Better safe than sorry.
It goes with your signature goes on the resolution.
Yeah.
Lloyd. So it only needs to be one.
It just needs to be a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay. So the recommendation from Carol is to move to update the 2023 annual minimum base salary of the Pennington County elected officials to include county auditor 91,000, county register of deeds 91, county sheriff and coroner to 135, county state's attorney to 135, and county treasurer to 91,000. And we don't need to have the signature added.
No, because by virtue of the
You're gonna
board
sign it.
approving the resolution, the signature goes with.
Okay, so we can leave that out.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion or any questions for Carol? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion.
I'd make that motion.
Moved by Drews.
Mr. Chair,
I'm waiting for a second.
Second.
Second by Hancock, okay.
I guess I just want to emphasize that these numbers weren't pulled out of the air, that they were based on a market analysis of comparable positions in similar communities. So thank you for all that thought and the research so that we could feel comfortable making this motion.
You're very welcome.
Any further questions for Carol? I would second what Mr. Roskinek just said. These weren't numbers that were just pulled out. You've done your due diligence, you've been studying and looking at working for not only elected, but the departments by each one, and it's gonna take some time, but it's good that you're looking at them and you've worked hard on them, so we appreciate that. With that being said, we do have a motion on the floor. Any public comment on that? Any further from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Gary.
Next on our agenda is the appointment of the state's attorney pursuant to SDCL 3433. Miss Carol.
Yes, so commissioners, as you said, the next agenda item is for the appointment of the state's attorney position due to the resignation of Mark Vargo, that he will be leaving the position on April 24th of 2023, thus creating a vacancy to fill. And the Board of Commissioners has the authority to appoint an individual to fill the role for the remainder of the term. Included in the packet is Mr. Vargo's resignation letter, the acknowledgement of the auditor, and a blank warrant of appointment. So at this time, I'll stand for any questions that the board may have.
Carol, thank you. I got one comment for our commission. Shortly after Mr. Vargo's announcement, we knew we needed to fill the position, and so we reached out, the commission, to current employees first, because the commission felt that that's the proper way to go, is to promote within, or look within. After that, they were very gracious. They said they would if they had to, but they preferred to stay in their positions and do the hard work that they're doing, and felt that it was a better place for them. So we appreciate them. Shortly after that, we had two former employees from the state's attorney's office reach out to the Board of Commissioners and express their interest in being appointed to fill the role. The interview were Interviews were conducted in the executive session on March 7th pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2. There was no decision made at that time as to who the board would select and appoint. The appointment of the position was placed on today's agenda to completed in open session and by the majority vote of the board. Due to the time-sensitive nature of the resignation and the position that it was appropriate to expedite. The board felt this is choking up here, appropriate to expedite the quick action and afford the individual who will be appointed the opportunity to give the ample notice to their employers and be ready to take over the role of the office of the state's attorney on April 24th. That's why we expedited it and had an executive session is because both people had jobs somewhere else and didn't want it out. Since that time, one of the candidates last night withdrew their option for this position. So I wanted to express that. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the floor, the commissioners to make,
Chairman,
looks like Ms. Hadcock wants to make a motion. So I'll open the floor up for nominations. Ms. Hadcock.
I don't make the motion, I just open up the floor, because there's only one candidate now, isn't
Yep,
there?
there's only one, so I'd
Okay.
read out the whole thing.
Okay, move to appoint Laura Retzel as the Pennington County State's Attorney pursuant to SDCL-3-4-3, parentheses 3, to replace Mark Vargo with said appointment to be effective April 24, 2023, and further set Laura Retzel starting salary at the base rate of $135,000 annually.
Second.
It was moved by Hadcock, seconded by Roskinet. Is there any public comment on this? I think we have somebody who would like to make a comment. I'll waive the requirements of a public speaker's requirement.
Introduce yourself and kind of explain who you are.
My name is John Rayfield, and excuse me, I had a granddaughter who was killed back in May of 2015. We didn't know anything about it, where she was, what happened to her until May of 2016. And Laura was there every step of the way, and she was very effective. And I'm very happy that she's going to be our state's attorney.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir.
And I will say, on behalf of the commission, Laura had done the interim while Mr. Vargo was gone doing the attorney work for the whole state for 7 months. She's intimately familiar with the current caseloads. There will be no learning curve for her. She'll be able to jump in and hit the ground running. The board feels the appointment of Laura is the best interest of the office, the staff, and the judicial system, and for the taxpayers in our great county. So, I think this appointment's going to, as I said, be able to keep us going, and she's going to be able to hit the ground running. And we appreciate you, sir, for coming here and taking the time out of your day to express your support of that.
Well, I was worried maybe she might have competition when I had.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Drews.
So, Mr. Rayfeld, no parent or grandparent should have to endure what you've endured. But I appreciate the phone call and appreciate you coming here to express your opinion relative to this. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any further comments? Mr. Vargo, would you like to say?
If I could, just briefly. I'd like to echo exactly what you said. And I think actually, Commissioner Drews, it was Mike Rayfeld, I think, that called you, which was Jessica's dad. But that family, I think it's just an illustration of what this position calls for. It's not just a political position, it's an elected official, somebody that needs to be able to do the job and lead people who are doing the job. And I think that's why, before before somebody decides to stand up and be an alternate candidate in the back, I'll shut up. But I would be very glad to be able to hand the office over to Laura, and she would be the most experienced person to ever step into that office. And I think it'd be a great choice for you.
Thank you, Mr. Vargo.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Mark?
Roskinek.
Mark, I want to thank you for your service, and it's been a pleasure working with you, and good luck on your new position and
Be safe.
going forward.
Thank you very much. We'll still get to talk a little bit down the road, but I do appreciate
You
it.
get my email address.
There you go.
This isn't your last meeting.
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay. Does the commissioners have any further comments? Is there any further comments or anything else from the audience? Seeing none, I have a motion on the floor. All in favor of Laura Retzel as the new state's attorney, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Laura, and to Mr. Vargo's office. With that, we will move on to
Carol.
items from the Compensation Committee.
Feel like I'm dominating the agenda here today.
No, that was highway.
Well, I will defer to them for that honor then. So as far as the compensation committee, that you'll see that item A and B both refer to policy 3.18. Item A is requesting action be made that the compensation committee, that they do request that the board approve the revision to the 3.18 compensation administration promotions policy that we presented in the March 7 meeting. And the motion could read as follows, that I move to approve the recommended revisions by the Compensation Committee to Policy 3.18 Compensation Administration Promotions Policy effective immediately, to remove the last sentence which refers to the 3-month restriction for promotions under the promotions bullet as follows. So then it would remove promotions may not occur until the employee has worked a minimum of 3 continuous calendar months in their current role.
Okay, I think I've got a simpler motion in front of me, but I'd look at,
Move approval.
you want to read what you got? Because you're on the Compensation Committee.
Move to approve the revisions to policy 3.18 compensation administration, removing the 3-month restriction for promotions effective immediately.
Would that get us where we need to be?
Yes.
Okay. It's moved by Hancock, seconded by Mr. Drews. Any public comment? Any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number B.
So item B is a recommendation from the Compensation Committee, and the revision would include adding a sentence to the last bullet point, which would state, unless step 1 of the higher DBM classification exceeds 10%. In this case, the employee would be placed at step 1 of the higher DBM classification. So this has actually been in practice. However, this information needs to be included in the policy for clarification and consistency of application and promotions. So adopting this is a recommendation, and so it cannot be acted on until the following meeting.
Okay, so this one and your next item both are, you're making a public hearing, it won't be, and recommendations, and we'll take action on them on our next meeting, so they're informational.
Right.
Okay. Any questions for Carol on item B? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C.
So the recommendation pertains to policy 2.15, which is facility closures policy. And today is actually a good example of that with our weather doing what it is. But this one was a recommendation to expand the facility closures policy to include a facility closure leave benefit. And so as you're working through the policy as it exists today, that you'll see that the revisions in Exhibit B indicate as far as what the recommendation includes. So it's changing some of the definitions to types of closures to emergency and non-emergency. And then also as far as in that new section for emergency facility closures, that it's cleaned up the language in the first couple of paragraphs, and then it added the third paragraph in bullets, and it also cleaned up language in the fourth paragraph, and then added the last sentence in regards to definition of emergency employees may include other departments. And then it deleted paragraphs 5 and 7, as well as most of paragraph 6, with the exception of retaining the statement regarding non-employees are not permitted to work during closure. And that is for safety reasons that we retained that. And then in the section, that definition of employees as essential and non-essential or temporary essential personnel, we deleted all of those paragraphs within this section because they applied to definitions that were pertaining to the CARES Act. So that has come to an end, so it's no longer necessary in the policy. And then we created a new section which deals with the non-emergency facility closure. So we clarified during non-emergency closures that non-exempt employees may use their benefit time. And if you'll recall that last meeting, we made that it was both vacation as well as sick leave that they can use for that time. And then the new section, which is the recommendation of the Compensation Committee, that it outlines a new leave benefit to be applied to non-exempt employees during emergency facility closures, as well as the criterion in which it will apply. So the last topic in this section explains how absences will be treated when the county facilities remain open. So adopting this policy, as you said, that is something that we would carry forward into the next meeting.
Okay. Looks like you guys did a lot of work on this, so I appreciate it. Is there any questions for Carol on this? Any comments?
Thank you, Carol.
I'm just going to echo what you said. A lot of hard work and appreciate the efforts in updating things because everything gets outdated after a while.
Yes, the committee did a great job of doing comparisons with comparable organizations as to what their policies were. And so this is in tandem with what is being done within the industry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drew.
So, Carol, I do appreciate your work on all of this. Policies are made for the time. Some can apply for years in the future, some can't. So I'm really pleased to see that you're on top of, and the Compensation Committee on top of that, of looking at these policies, because some of these were just adopted a year or 2 years ago, needed change. And so it's always nice to have updated policies. So appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
No further discussion?
Okay.
Thanks. We'll see it on the
Thank
next
you.
agenda. Thanks, Carol. This brings us to item 19, which is items from the public. Speaker request form is required. Do we have, I don't have any. Do we have anybody that wants to speak? Hearing none, I would look for a recess to 10:30 for the Board of Adjustments.
So move.
Moved by Rosknecht, second by Laster. Take a 10-minute break. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. We are back. I'd look,
Mr. Chair, move to come out of the board of, or move to come out of recess.
okay, moved and seconded to get back into session. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd look for a motion to go into Board of Adjustments. Moved by Hancock, seconded by Drews to go into Board of Adjustments. Any discussion? Saying none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in the Board of Adjustments.
Chairman,
Ms. Hancock.
item A and B are continuance till 4/4/23. Can we make the motion so they don't have to do all the presentation and stuff for it?
Are you good with that? Okay. I'd probably just read them into record, which ones are continued. So if, yeah, you could read them. I think you're okay taking them both together. Could you just Give her some practice, have her read them in.
Coach Zach, environmental planner, you just have to make separate motions on them.
Yeah, all we do. Okay, go ahead and
Okay.
identify yourself for the record and
Morning, Commissioners. Christine Phillip, Assistant Planner. Agenda item number A is variance VA 2304 to reduce the setback to the south lot line from 25 feet to 7.7 for an existing garage. And we recommend to continue this variance till April 4th, 2023.
any discussion from the public? Seeing none, any from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Who made the motion? I did. And who was the second? I didn't hear it.
Oh,
I did.
Gary.
Drews, yeah.
Thank you.
Moved by Hadcock, seconded by Drews.
Okay.
Unanimous vote. Cody, item B.
Item B is variance VA 23-06 to reduce the setback to the west lot line from 25 feet to 1 feet for an existing structure. Staff is going to recommend to continue variance VA 23-06 to the April 4th, 2023 Board of Adjustment meeting, as the item was not properly advertised per state statute, as the Rapid City Journal did not advertise them.
Okay. Moved by Hadcock.
Yep.
Seconded by Drews. Any discussion? Any from public? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we come to item C. It's an appeal decision from the planning director. Please recognize yourself for the,
Hi, Megan Talmadge, planner. Agenda item C is a request from Thomas and Melanie Palm for a variance application to be submitted. The applicants are requesting that the Board of Commissioners direct the planning director to take in the applicant's variance application to allow a vacation home rental on a property less than 1 acre in size. Vacation home rentals are not allowed on property less than 1 acre, according to our zoning ordinance. Thomas Palm attempted to submit a conditional use permit for a vacation home rental in February of 2023. Staff did not take in the application due to the property being 0.58 acre. The applicants own the adjacent property, which is 0.28 acre. Both properties have been bought and sold together prior to 1994. The on-site wastewater treatment system is on the adjacent lot. There is a correction to the next sentence. The applicants are willing to do a developmental lot agreement on these properties. The applicants' properties are zoned suburban residential. To the north, east, and west is also suburban residential. The south of the property is open space. Staff met with the applicants on March 1st, 2023 to discuss the variance process. Staff stated they will not take in the application due to no specific circumstances or conditions such as exceptional narrowness, topography, or siting that would cause an unreasonable deprivation of use. Staff recommends to deny the request to direct the planning director to take in the variance to allow a vacation home rental on a property less than 1 acre due to no special condition existing that would prevent the use and enjoyment of the property.
any further comments, Megan?
None from me.
Okay, are the applicants here today?
They are.
Would you like to come forward and state your case?
Yes.
And you are Thomas?
I'm Thomas Palm. My wife is Melanie.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys hearing us. Nice snowy spring morning. First, we would like to recognize that the Planning and Zoning Committee, or the officers, really been very helpful, kind of shepherding us through the process. Also, people in the Register of Deeds. So it's a much more confusing issue than we had any idea we were getting into when we started this process. Given that, and we also understand that at this point, the commission is looking at revising the rules for VHRs. Specifically, the 1 acre law has been brought up to the commission's attention. I think last week we were attending a meeting where there was a lot of public discussion about that. I understand that you are probably in a position now where you are considering pros and cons of that. I guess we're applying specifically for our situation here. We believe that the 1 acre law in its intention, which is, I understand, separation of property from neighbors, et cetera, that we've essentially achieved that, especially from having the Forest Service on our south boundary. We also spoke to our neighbor upstream. He's the closest neighbor, and he's fully in support of the VHR on our property. If you needed some sort of documentation, I'm sure we could get that from him. I guess that's in a nutshell our case. Do you have any questions?
Well, Mr. Thomas, I appreciate, I read through all your stuff, so I appreciate it. But I'm going to.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Hadcock's first.
Chairman, so, Mr. Palm, you have your VHR license?
No.
Or you're just waiting to see if,
Right, the one sticking point now is the 1 acre rule.
okay, and then, so you'll need a Department of Health license and then a sales tax license?
That's
Sales
all been
tax?
done.
That's all.
Okay. And then we had some stuff through the state, but I talked to Brittany, and your water and sewer is okay at this point through the state. So just to clarify that, the water and sewer is less than 1 acre, but has been approved through the state, so.
Okay. You finished? No.
No, I'm in favor of this today because I believe those are some of the criteria for me, Department of Health, making sure you have that, the sewer and water is adequate for the property. You have a Department of Revenue also licensed. I think because of your Forest Service on the south, it's unique. Your VHR for your next door neighbor is not an issue. Also, the zoning is suburban residential, so your zoning meets that criteria as well. So for me, I don't have a problem with this VHR today.
Okay. Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I just got a couple items. Week and a half ago, I attended a special meeting where we addressed vacation home rentals and the current ordinance. And the ordinance, says that you got to have 1 acre or more. And since I've been on the commission for the last 4 years, I've never seen anything less than 1 acre get approved. But at that last meeting, there was a lot of folks that didn't agree with the 1 acre. And so that is being worked on. And, not all half acre or 0.6 acre lots are equal. Like yours is an exception, like that one would probably work. But I kind of have to, I hate to deviate from the way that I've ruled for the last 4 years relative to that 1 acre rule. But I do agree that we have to address the 1 acre size going forward in the modification of that ordinance. I do agree with that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let you know that we do have to work on that, in my opinion.
Mr. Chair.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Laster?
Mr. Chair, I got a question for staff and kind of want to verify that statement. Has this board approved since we put in that 1 acre requirement for VHRs? Have we had a variation or a variance or anything that we've approved?
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. You have approved one in Idawise, and the only reason that one was approved is that there was evidence from the applicant that they had been operating as a vacation home rental prior to our ordinance going into effect in that 2012 timeframe. Other than that, all other ones have been denied. So that was the reason for the rejection of the variance application, because this board has not approved any vacation home rentals under 1 acre.
Thank you. And a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
How do they, staff, this is a question for staff. How do they have an on-site wastewater treatment system on less than 1 acre? I thought you have to have at least 1 acre to have a.
They do. Their lots are actually grandfathered because they were platted prior to that rule going into effect. So with them having their on-site wastewater treatment system on the lot to the east there, if they do plat those together and then it's only 0.89 acres, they would lose their grandfathering. So they're actually in a better situation by keeping them separate like that and keeping their well is on the lot with the home and their septic is on the lot that's unimproved.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so our understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we were to put them together, then that would cause problems for the septic versus well. If we keep them separate as they're platted correctly, but put them together under the developmental lot rule, which sounds like we can do that, then we will both meet the requirements for the septic and the water. And we will also, again, correct me if I'm wrong, then those two lots, the .86 acres could be viewed as the vacation home rental total acreage as opposed to only the .56 that the house sits on.
Well, it would actually be the .56. The developmental would just be that you couldn't sell that one separate and develop it with a variance on that other lot.
Okay.
So we would look at them as developmental lots together, but we still look at them, because you can still develop them separately. They have separate legal descriptions, but by having the agreement, you wouldn't be able to separate that lot from that one and have the vacation home rental on it.
Right, and I can't foresee any likelihood that they would ever be separated. It wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lasker.
I just have one more follow-up, I think. So, Brittany, I haven't been in some of those meetings with the VHR committee. I've talked to people who've been in them, and I know Ron's given us some updates and stuff of that nature. Definitely, if we go less than an acre in the county, not a big deal, but if we stay with an acre and we give a variance in this particular case ahead of time, then we kind of create another potential where we're kind of outside of that ordinance with another person that we would have to grandfather in if we change the well, actually, it wouldn't even be changing the ordinance. If we kept it 1 acre or greater, then now we've just allowed a variance to go in that, which opens the door for potential other variances. I understand he's connected to Forest Service land and things of that nature, and I get that. I just won't want to open the door for a lot more smaller ones unless we're going to do that in the ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the planning commission hasn't given any indication of where they are, where their position is on that 1 acre. They've only listened to testimony at this point, so I don't know if that will change or not, or if there will be some criteria for that. I think there is some concern during those meetings. There's some confusion whether these properties are located in the city limits or in the county. So that's something that we're going to clarify at the next meeting. But there hasn't been any indication from the planning commission what way they are going to decide or recommend. I know that the 1 acre was recommended by the committee.
The 1 acre was recommended by the committee?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Drews.
So going back to the one that was approved, since we've been on the commission, and I've been on 4 years now, in Edelweiss. Edelweiss was sort of a subdivision that was established for that purpose to begin with, and that's what kind of convinced me to vote in favor of that one, of being less than an acre in that particular instance. I don't know if the acre is the magic amount, but I think that if we start looking at something less than that at this point in time, before the planning commission has made a recommendation as to where it should be at this point in time, I think we're really opening it up for a can of worms, in my opinion, so.
Mr. Chair.
Are you done?
I'm done.
I'm going to make a comment before I go to second round. Mr. Thomas, I have a couple questions, then a follow-up from myself. One of the questions I have is, I read through this, I mean, you did your homework, you did your work as far as, but I see you've got an LLC on this. And I think one of the biggest reasons why the 1 acre, this is my belief, was that corporations were buying multiple at once. So you say this is for family use, and that's why you purchased it and so forth. Is that correct?
Yes, this is the only rental property that we own. The purpose of putting it in LLC, frankly, was more of a cover your ass protection, just because of liabilities.
Okay, so my follow-up on this is, this is exactly what I actually would like to, well, I know that's happening in our hills. I know that if you go back through a lot of our older purchases, and I've talked to some other people, people have bought properties in the hills from long ago to come here to vacation and go back to where they are. Just no different from people going from here to Arizona and back. And VHRs have become a way to be able to keep them up. while they're not being used by the person who owns them. And that's what I kind of gathered when I read your stuff, is the family to be able to come and use it, and the VHR is the way to help keep it upkept and keep it going so they can keep coming back. And I think that gets missed out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I do want to read one thing that you stated for this commission that I've stressed over my time on the commission. And that's what I really feel. One of your comments was, we believe that this is within the purview and responsibility of the commission, and the reason that variance as an instrument exists to remedy those circumstances that fall outside the letter of the law, but still keep the intention of the law intact. I think that's our job. And I think when I seen that in your letter, I think that's why we're here. That's why we have the variance, because there's not a black and white situation to every situation out there. We can't find one ordinance that's going to be a fit all for everybody. So I just wanted to bring that up as far as this. I'm one of those two that was on this part 1 acre rule. That's what it came on when I came on the commission. But I always know that there's a difference for everything, so I can't stay steady and hard on one set rule, especially now that it's coming back up again also. And you're hearing a lot of different views on how it is.
Well, if I can comment, we've done a lot of research now on this, and I guess what we haven't really been able to find is what exactly the intention is behind that 1 acre. And I believe that anytime that you enact a law or a rule, presumably there is some reasoning behind that, some intention. And for everyone I speak to, they have their opinion of what the intention was, but I hadn't been able to find something that was actually black and white about why was this rule put into place. So maybe you can expound on that. And if there is the intention, then I guess we would like to address how we think our property works with those intentions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. I think Mr. Roskineck's next in line.
Well, the point I want to make out, the last meeting that I went to that was focused on vacation home rentals and the ordinance, we had different topics. You know, we were talking about access, parking, insurance, and the one that really got a lot of traction was the acreage. Okay, there's going to be a subsequent meeting. This will be our third one, and it's on the 29th at 4 o'clock here. And I would suggest that you come to that meeting.
Unfortunately, we'll be out of time.
I see. But that was one of the questions, is where did it originate? And I don't have the answer right in front of me, but there was a solid reason why there was 1 acre. But I'm not saying that can't change, because that's why we're having these meetings. And anyhow, I wish I could deviate from the way I voted, but I've still got to vote the way that I've done the last 4 years.
Chairman, if I could try to answer that. Previously, when the original ordinance got approved to allow vacation home rentals, they were not allowed in suburban residential at all. They were allowed in every other zoning district but suburban residential. So when they came back to update the ordinance, in order for them to be allowed in suburban residential, they went with the 1 acre because that was the minimum requirement for a well and a septic on a lot. So that's kind of the understanding of where it came from, because originally they weren't allowed in suburban residential at all. So I believe that was a compromise to allow them in suburban residential if there was 1 acre. That way it ensured that it was an adequate size to have a well and a septic.
Thank you for that. That's.
Follow up. So, Mr. Thomas, with the Board of Adjustment, it takes a supermajority to approve our, so you'd have to have 4 on any motion that's made for approval. So I just want to let you know that. And you know that the commission, or they're holding the meetings for revisiting this, and I appreciate all the hard work that you've done to get here, and you've brought things to light, I think. So if anything, I don't know how the vote's going to go, and I don't know the motion yet, so I'm just going to give you a heads up.
Chairman.
And can I add one more point?
Sure.
These vacation home rentals, if you get approval on a CUP or an SHP, is it? It's only good for a year. So the committee has a chance each year to revisit this and either continue the licensing or take it back. So I think it's not like once you grant a variance, that's good forever. Now, I understand it does present some sort of a precedent, but you can, anytime each year, deny the ongoing licensing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Go back to the commission. Ms. Hadcock.
Mr. Palm, I think what Lori's trying to say, and I don't think you have the votes, because if two people vote no, and I think at least three have said because of the 1 acre. I'm one of those that, back in the day, the 1 acre made sense because of suburban resident, we couldn't do it in suburban residential, but it's changed. People's thoughts on VHRs have changed for a lot of people. I think the ordinance as sits for VHR, I'll be up straight, is over restrictive. These are basically, and people don't call it a business, it's a business. And we do not regulate in the county businesses like we have done with those VHRs. I think there should be 5 or 6 criteria based on Department of Health. You already know sewer and water is adequate, whether it's a quarter acre or whatever that might be. Department of Revenue, if it is less than an acre, maybe do a CUP like we do, which is a conditional use permit like we do on anything else. I believe that, again, VHR is a business. I know it's not supposedly a business based on state rules and regs, but if you were to do a business in Pennington County and make it that over restrictive, you would have the law probably at that point saying, okay, what are you guys doing? What is government doing regulating businesses? So for me, if you have adequate sewer and water, which you do, because of Forest Service, you have a unique situation on your acreage. You do have the zoning in your favor. I think you followed all the rules and regulations, and a lot of times I don't remember if we had a southern border for that acreage that is Forest Service that wouldn't been affected or affecting anybody else on that acreage. So you have some really unique situations, Mr. Palm, today, but unfortunately, people are sticking to the rules and regs on that acre, and I agree with Lloyd that variance is for a reason, but unfortunately, that's not always said and done for some commissioners. So for me, I agree. There's a variance and you're here for a reason because you have a unique situation that seems not only to you, but as me as one commissioner, something that I think could be okay for a VHR. So I'm into business. I'm into VHRs. Always have been. Shut one down only the last probably month or so ago, but the people did not apply for their license. They did it for a living all over the United States, but decided not to transfer theirs or do their business according to the rules and regulations of VHR. So it had nothing to do that it was a VHR. It had to do with their business practices. So
Okay.
again, if it were me, sir, it would be good. But if we deny without prejudice today, you would not lose any, if I'm correct, Cody, any cash flow or Brittany?
Cody Stack, environmental planner. So this wasn't actually a variance request. This was an appeal so when they came in, they met with staff. Staff said that we would deny the application because there's been or not even accept a variance application because there's been no variances approved except for that one.
So there wasn't any money involved?
So there wasn't any money
Okay.
involved. We figured this would be the best way to see how the board felt about it before the variance went into effect, because if the board denied the variance, then he paid the fee for it and got the variance. This was basically a freebie to see how the board would feel on it.
Thank you. And we are having those meetings, sir, on this, so it'd be a good idea, Mr. Palm. I know you can't make it, but you also can make a comment in writing to that
Okay.
VHR meeting, so maybe somebody could read it for you. But again, for VHRs, I think as ordinance is written today, for that VHR, it's over restrictive. So for me, again, you're running it as a business. We do, people rent their houses in Pennington County and they don't have this kind of overreach that they're doing on that ordinance. And at this point, for me, I think there should be 5 or 6 criteria that meet the county ordinances, and then people can, apply and do what you're doing today.
Well, I appreciate your
Okay.
comments.
Hold on. Okay, now you're done, Deb?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who'd I hear over here?
He did.
Travis,
If he wanted to say something, I was going to let him say something before I.
did you want to make a comment before you lose your train of thought?
Thank you. That happens. I appreciate your comments. I understand that this is an ongoing process, and hopefully the commissioners and the planning and zoning will revisit this issue and take into account not only the comments during the public hearings, but also there was losing my train of thought. There was a survey put out that had quite a few comments on it, and one of them was involving the 1 acre rule. My memory is that over 60% believe that less than 1 acre was acceptable. So I think you've not only got the proponents of VHR weighing in on this, but even some people who are against them in general, but didn't think that the 1 acre was one of the issues. So, yeah, I just asked that, I kind of see the direction this is going today, but that as over the next couple of months or however long this process takes, that the 1 acre rule does get downgraded, and I don't know what the magic number is either. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments about what that is. Hopefully, if we don't get an agreeable discussion or decision here today, we can revisit this once the proposal is redrafted.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Thomas. I think I got last or first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, Mr. Palm, I want to say thank you for not operating outside of the norm. A lot of individuals will start operating and they get caught. So thank you for that, because that means a lot to me whenever you do that. I did make the comment earlier about, the ordinances, what the ordinance is currently for 1 acre. I don't want to get us into a pickle where whatever it ends up being, that we set ourselves up, that we have extra variances out there. Not that I'm against variances. I do believe that there's certain cases for variances. However, I'm also in the same mindset as my counterpart at the end. I do believe we're over-regulating VHRs. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to put us in a predicament where if we do vote on something in the future, now we've already got these variances that are out there. I'm not sure where the rest of the board sits on the VHR restrictions and whatnot. That'll be determined as we go through the rest of the committee and it comes before us. But I do think we are over-regulating in an industry, in an entity that, as you said, if I own another piece of property in town, I could rent it year long with no issues. And I wouldn't have to come here to ask if I could do that. But if I want to rent it for 2 days or 3 days at a time, I have to come here and follow all of these things. So you might have individuals on your side that you may not be aware of just yet, and it might benefit you in the future.
Okay.
I understand your predicament.
Next in line, I have Mr. Rosknecht before I speak.
I just want you to know that your trip to Rapid wasn't wasted. You're in a kind of a pickle, and I agree with Deb. Everything's there. It's just that darn 1 acre. And so your testimony has opened my eyes to be more lenient to make an adjustment to the 1 acre, because some sites less than an acre, they just don't work. And there's a number of factors why they don't work. You have a situation where everything falls in place and it would work. We just got to deal with that 1 acre threshold. So I appreciate you coming in and your testimony.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Drews.
I would move to deny the appeal and support staff's recommendation to not take in the variance request to allow a vacation home rental on property less than 1 acre due to no special condition existing that would prevent the use and enjoyment of the property.
It's been moved by Drews to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rosknecht.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
Again, I just want to reiterate what we've said before too, is for individuals that are purchasing property that with the inclination to try to convert it into vacation home rental property, they should check with the county planning department first. And it's truly a buyer beware situation, because I know that some people are being less misled that they can convert some of these properties into vacation home rentals when the ordinance really doesn't stand in their favor at this point, so.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. I'm gonna make a comment. I think everybody's gotten twice but me.
Good.
Thanks for that point, Mr. Drews. I'm in support of grant approving this, and the reason why I do is because I think as this ordinance moves forward, I think the reason why the 1 acre was thrown on there is because well, Deb would probably know more than I do, but it was always explained to me as it was the septic system and that was the minimum requirements. And I think there was a lot of some other surrounding factors, but I know there's always exceptions to the rules. And I personally just think, it's better to have a set standards of criteria instead of a setting the 1 acre, because I know there's a lot of them out there that would be approved except for the 1 acre rule. But I think if you meet the requirements with the septic and all the requirements from the state and all that other set forth instead of that one, I think that's how it should be taken at. And I hope the committee that's working on this starts looking at that more instead of getting stuck on the 1 acre thing, but criteria. Because quite frankly, these operations, people use these for 5 months out of the year at the very most. Depending more if you're in the lead area, but in the Black Hills, you're looking at 4 total months. And that, to me, helps keep up the maintenance of the building and so forth. And also provides jobs for the people cleaning and maintenance people that have to come out and fix stuff too. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't know where it's going to go today, but I wouldn't. That's what I'm looking at. With that, I'd recognize Ms. Hag.
Hopefully this is quick. Maybe you could go purchase a little bit more property?
No.
To make it 1 acre, and so it would be acceptable, because I don't know how long it takes to get the VHR rule, or just wait for the new VHR rule. The main thing I think, and here's where the problem is too, I think when people are under an acre, they're not registering, because they know they're not gonna get accepted, so that's why they're doing some of that. That doesn't make it acceptable, I'll just tell you. But I think once that rule, if it's not in effect anymore, I think we'll have a lot more people coming in for VHRs, because we have a lot of suburban and residential in different areas that are probably, that's why they're 60%, because a lot of people can't register for those VHRs, otherwise they're not following the rules and regulations of the county. So, again, thank you for coming in today, sir. I'm in agreement with you, but there is a rule and regulation as an acre, but I'm one of those that the exception meets the rule, meaning everything that it's not going to cause any undue hardship, safety, welfare, and anybody, that I like variances. So thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
I'm gonna. You want one final
just one
comment?
last comment. In other situations like this, I think it was up in Idlewise. So one alternative would be if you get along good with your neighbor to the west, if you could acquire a part of his property to bring your 2 lots up to 1 acre, that would be an area of roughly 50 feet by 280 feet. But that I've seen situations like this where they didn't meet the 1 acre and they worked out something with their neighbor. But I'm just saying there's an alternative too.
That has occurred to us, and we have not visited with our neighbor about that. I know if you look at the property valuations, especially on ours, and then go break it down into a square foot price, people tend to have different opinions of what their land is worth.
Sure.
And at a certain point, it doesn't make sense financially.
So with that, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to give you one last opportunity to comment to the commission before we go to a vote.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time you've taken. It's obviously probably more than you usually take on this type of situation. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Hadcock that if I were to address the full range of kind of my thoughts about vacation home rental, there's a lot more to speak to. But we really wanted to focus just on this one issue because we have, I think, really gone down all the steps required. As you recognize, there are a lot of them out there operating that are operating under the wire, and partially they're doing that because they can't meet one or number of these different requirements. I think you'd have a lot more people coming forward and actually registering and getting their license, which means then you have some control over that. Which right now, it is kind of Wild West. There is no control. So I'm appealing to the board to, in the future, as this comes up, to look really carefully at that 1 acre rule.
Thank you, Thomas. Kara, we're going to do a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Hadcock,
No.
Ross Connect,
Yes.
Drews,
Yes.
Lassiter,
Yes.
and LaCroy.
No.
Thank you very much.
So it fails. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Now I need a motion to adjourn as the Board of Adjustments.
So moved. Second.
Oh, I heard three at the same time for a motion.
Just pick one.
I'll
be the seconder because I said second.
Moved by Rosknecht, seconded by Laster to come out of Board of Adjustments. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now we come to uncontested hearings.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Item D is vacation of plat, VP 23-01 for Pete Lean and Sons. Avid 4 Engineering, David Muck is the agent. They are requesting to vacate Lot L. It's along a section line right-of-way that has been previously vacated. The location of the property is 3615 Universal Drive. This Lot L, provides right-of-way, but private access to the adjacent lots is no longer needed because access is provided from Universal Drive, and there's no known utilities located within Lot L. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this vacation of plat with one condition.
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
I'd move to approve vacation of plat slash VP 23-01 with one condition.
Second.
Moved by Drews, seconded by Rosknecht. Any public comment? Any further from the commission?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
I was on the planning commission when this came through, and since there's really no purpose, this was platted a long time ago, since there's really no purpose for it to continue,
Okay.
we didn't see any reason not to approve this.
Okay. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, and it's Megan.
Megan Talmadge, planner. Item E is rezone 23-02, and it's to rezone .494 acre from agriculture district to rural residential district. The applicant and owner is Marjorie Helgeson, trustee, and the surveyor and agent is Davis Engineering. The current zoning is agriculture, and they're wanting to rezone to the future land use. So staff recommends approval of this rezone with concurrence of the Planning Commission. Is there any questions of Megan from the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rosknecht.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve wrong one. Move to approve rezone RZ 23-02.
It's been moved by Rosknecht,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any public comment? Any further from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, Cody.
Cody Stack, Urban Planner. Item F is Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CA 23-01. is to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from rural residential district to low-density residential district. The applicant and landowner is Jamie Gerlach. Location of the property is 10535 Sheridan Lake Road and involves 11.69 acres. Again, current zoning is agriculture districts with an existing land use of residential. Access is off Sheridan Lake Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. Future land use has the property as rural residential, which requires a lot size of 3 acres. The proposed zoning of low-density residential requires a half-acre lot size. The maximum density for single-family residence is 0.33 for rural residential and is 2 for low-density residential. Setbacks are 25 feet from all property lines for rural residential, and proposed low-density residential is 25 feet from the front and rear and 8 from the sides. Predominant land uses of both the future land use and the proposed zoning are residential, and utilities are both public and private. Surrounding zoning within 1/2 mile. On the left side of the screen is the current zoning within 1/2 mile. To the north, you have agriculture, open space, and rural residential. To the south, you have agriculture and open space. To the east, you have agriculture and open space. And to the west, you have rural residential, agriculture, open space, and planned unit development. Future land use within 1/2 mile is the item on your right. To the north, you have open space and rural residential. To the south, you have open space and rural residential. To the east, open space and rural residential. And to the west, you have open space, planned unit development, and rural residential. Land uses within 1/2 mile are either agriculture or residential. Current roads in the area, the property takes access off Sheridan Lake Road, which is a 24-foot wide paved road with shoulders and an approximately 87-foot public right-of-way. Infrastructure for the property would be private water and sewer. This was read around for interdepartment review. After talking to Highway this morning, they just wanted it to be known that no more approaches will be approved for the lots. The applicants are proposing to subdivide the property to create 5 lots. Layout plan LPL 23-03 was approved by the planning department. And rezone 23-01, which rezones the property from agriculture district to low density residential district, will be heard on this agenda on the next item. Low density residential denotes areas of semi-rural uses, single family residence with some agriculture uses. There are approximately 32 lots within 1/2 mile that are under 3 acres. Directly across the road, the yellow on Rockwood Road, those lots are all between approximately like 1.2 acres and 1.2 acres and 2 acres, which is roughly the size that the applicants are proposing. Staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request as it appears to be in harmony with existing land uses within the area and is supported by existing roads and infrastructure. And again, the majority of the properties within 1/2 mile are used as large lot residential. After the planning commission meeting, staff did receive emails from neighboring property owners. I believe you have all of those in your packet. With that, staff is recommending approval of comprehensive plan amendment CA 23-01 with the planning commission's concurrence.
Thank you, Cody. One of the things I neglected to mention at the beginning of these hearings about speaker request forms coming forward. Is it just the applicant we have in our audience right now? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make point that I have no speaker request forms on these 2 items, so I just wanted to make that note. And I'll call the applicant up if needed or if they choose to speak. Okay. So I'd look to the commissioners. Does the commission have any questions of Cody or for the applicants? I'm not seeing any.
Mr. Chair, I guess this letter indicates that it could have an impact on the water, so is there any evidence of that other than just a statement?
No, so, in the past, this comes up pretty much with every rezone and plat request in the hills. Water in the hills is really tricky. Across the street, you might have a 300-foot well. Across the street, you might have to go down to a 600-foot well. From my understanding, there was some water issues up on Sawmill Road, but staff hasn't heard anything about that in the past. It was brought up at the meeting, but I know that just recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, I believe a second well was dug and more properties were put on, or more houses were built on those lots as well. So staff's not aware of the water issues out there.
So Lot 2 is, if I recall, that's developed with the residents. Do we know what the well depth is on Lot 2 is?
I believe the applicants would be able to speak to that. I'm not sure.
Just be curious.
Yep.
Is that a question you want to ask the applicants? Or is it?
Correct,
The applicants, yeah.
Yeah, my question would be, do you know what the depth of the well is on Lot 2?
Good morning, and yes, I do. My name is Mandy Schmier. I am the applicant's representative.
Okay.
The depth of our well out there is 150 feet. Jamie and I both do reside on that property out there. We have lived out there since 2018 when we built our new home out there. And in 2016 is when Sheridan Lake Highlands had a new well re-drilled to a deeper depth. And since then, I mean, there's been no water issues on our property. And we intend to drill only one other well for the future lots.
Okay.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock?
move approval of comprehensive plan amendment CA 23-01.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews?
So on the well, that was, the new depth was done when? What year?
In 2016 is when they, according to a gentleman that we spoke to who performed the well serving services.
Okay.
There.
And you're planning just one more well?
Yes, sir.
And what lot would that be on?
That would probably be on lots 4 or 5, and it would be a shared well out there.
So maybe Cody or Megan can answer this. So when do the water rights go with the original well, or do the water rights then start over again with the drilling of the new well? But because as I understand it, those with the existing wells would have preference on the water if there does become a.
Yeah, so Megan Kruger with the State's Attorney's Office. Now, I should preface this with water law is not my expertise, but from what I recall about having to do some previous well agreements is typically the water right itself stays with the person that holds the water right. Sometimes water rights can get complicated, especially if you have multiple homes being pulled off of one well. It depends on how many gallons are being pulled per minute. And some of those requirements, come through the state. So they would need to contact the state to make sure that they were in compliance with all state regulations. And then usually there is what's called a well agreement between the lots or the owners, wherein you kind of agree on how much water everybody can use, and sometimes there is payment for the use of that water. And obviously, I would direct the applicant to, contact an attorney that's competent in water law because it's very complicated. So.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help at all?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It's another one of those cases where I think buyers need to be aware
Yeah.
when they're buying lots. That if there are water issues in the future, they might not have the preference on it. It may be somebody across the road that has preference on it.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, if you're on a well agreement where you're paying the person that owns the water right, you don't really have much control at all. I've done well agreements in private practice, and those can become very contentious areas between neighbors. So, especially when you've got one person that owns the water technically and another person that's, wanting to use that water. So.
Thank you, Megan.
Yep.
Any follow-up, Mary?
No.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
the only thing I would add is, if there is problems with the water out there, a buyer might have to realize they might be putting a holding tank in, and they'll have a water source, but they just have to, like Gary said, buyer beware. But I don't have a problems with this request.
My comment is probably the same. I appreciate Mr. Drews bringing this up because, quite frankly, when I bought property in the hills, that was the first thing I had checked. So it is a buyer beware, and I understand the residents' concerns across the street, but if people can't get the water, they're going to do a holding tank or something along those lines, so it'll work out. So we do have a motion on the floor for approval. Is there any further discussion? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item G.
Item G is rezone RZ 23-0, oh, sorry, Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. Rezone RZ 23-01, it's to rezone 11.69 acres from agriculture district to low-density residential district. Again, the applicant landowner is Jamie Gerlach. Location of the property is 10535 Lake Road. Current zoning is agriculture district, existing land use is residential. Access is off Sheridan Lake Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. I guess I don't know how much of this do you want me to go through again? It's all the same
I think we just
information.
read, kind of worked through it, so I don't think you need to go through the
We're
whole
good.
thing.
Okay, so with the comprehensive plan recommended for approval, staff would recommend approval of rezone RZ 23-01 with the planning commission's
So
concurrence.
moved.
Moved by Hadcock, seconded by Laster to approve the rezone. It was 23-01. Any public comment? Any further comment from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you for having to watch the painful process.
Next oh, no. Excuse me, guys.
Legislative.
I was skipping committee reports and legislative everything. I was gonna go straight to vouchers. Item 21, legislative session updates. So, Mr. Drews, do you have any?
This will be very quick and short. The bill that Pennington County was probably most interested in, it was House Bill 1042. This had to do with increasing the costs for sending out decals and plates, being able to try to get closer to total reimbursement on that, the cost of sending it out. That was signed by the governor, and when I asked Holly this morning, she said it's in effect, because they carried the emergency clause, so they're able to do that currently.
You, Holly, and Janet for going to Pier and seeing that through. You guys testified and must have gave some really good testimony, so thank you for doing that.
And then Senate Bill 21, the Forest Service Assessment Bill, that was signed by the governor, and so that contributes $950,000 towards that cause, which includes, I think, one employee with that.
Right.
And then also, we were asked by our 911 people to support moving 911 first responders to Class B for our South Dakota retirement system, from Class A to Class B, which gives them a retirement rule of, instead of 85, of 75, and that was approved and signed, and I believe that that'll go into effect probably July 1. I don't think that carried a emergency clause
Really?
on it.
What's 85 to 75 years old?
No. You can retire earlier.
Yeah, the rule of 85 is your age
Yeah.
plus your years of service
Okay.
combined is when you get when you can retire.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I just thought, I was like, holy crap.
So this fits in with other law enforcement is what it actually does. So,
That's pretty exciting because that's something that they've been working on for quite a few years, isn't it?
yeah. And then the only other one that I was going to report on is I think that the one not requiring the supermajority on Board of Equalization, I think that bill was passed, and I think that was also signed by the governor. I don't remember the bill number on that, Holly.
Did they say we could put some city people and some other people on that board?
Don't think it does that.
Dang, dear. I thought you were going to get that through, Gary, one of these days.
That one is primarily for some of the livestock industry, for really it impacted smaller counties than it probably did larger counties because of all the conflicts that Board of Equalization members may have with neighbors or even themselves or family or whatever it may be, so.
Did the
Mr. Chair.
911 bill get moved into something else? Because it's showing that it was tabled and that's where it ended. I just wonder if that bill got moved into another one that I missed.
Really? Okay. I take that report back. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it then.
That would suck.
I thought it had been passed, we'll have to, probably go across the hall and find out.
No, it was tabled in House retirement laws.
Hmm.
But
Mr.
find
Chair,
out more.
Mr.
I
Escott.
was just going to tag on to Senate Bill 21. And that 950,000, 500 of that would be matching funds for the county. So we have divvied up 50,000, and so I'm assuming that 50,000 is going to be matched by that 500,000. And tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I believe we have a forest revision plan, our next meeting. So if Randy's there, we can discuss, how we want to go forward with hiring a consultant.
Okay. Mr. Laster, did you have a?
I was going to point out that two things that we, when we sent the letter to the legislators and stuff, 139 has been passed and signed. And then that was dealing with the residency requirement. And if I remember correctly, I don't remember the number, but there was also a funding and everything for post-election audits. And I believe that was signed and moved forward too. So two of the things that we requested, the two big things in that letter that we sent forward were addressed and voted on. Now, how they will play out over the next few years will be to be seen, but they addressed them and they started working on it.
That's good. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to items from, is there anything from number 22, items from chair or commission members? Is there anything commissioners want to bring up?
Mr. Chair, the only thing I would mention is the meeting tomorrow night at Johnson Siding. And I assume it's going to go similar to the one in Hill City, maybe a little bit higher attendance. But I feel comfortable knowing that some of the senators and representatives will be at this meeting, because the last meeting, it's like the county just don't have, full control. We have to sit there and follow the statutes set by the state. So some of this stuff is going to have to be done on a state level, and I think people just need to be aware of that.
I don't know if they're gonna back you up tomorrow, but. So just remember that.
No,
I'm just saying, people like open meetings where we're not hiding. It's face to face. Come up. We'll talk. We'll explain the process. If you got questions, we'll try to answer them.
No, and I really appreciate, the work Shannon does, but also you guys setting up the public meetings with the residents out there. I mean, even New Underwood and so forth. I think people appreciate that, even though you don't hear that. But, on the backside, I think the majority of the people appreciate at least the initiative and the forwardness of meeting. So
the city administrator for Hill City reached out to me after the meeting. He said he had a lot of positive comments on that meeting. Not everybody's happy, but he said he appreciated the fact that we went up there. He got a chance to explain, to talk to Shannon how the city's going to do their boards, but it was a good meeting, and I think all in all, it was a lot of people appreciated the fact that we went up on a cold, snowy night and did what we did.
You did. Nice job. Okay, committee.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Mr. Laster.
I was just going to add a couple of different things on there. As part of the Wall Ambulance annual meeting, they elected a new board. That one had a pretty good, smooth community meeting, and some questions were asked, and that was pretty good. But also to point out there, I recently went to the airport, Regional Airport Board of Directors meeting. I was there at that meeting, and then I got a tour a couple of days later of the airport and what their planned construction project was. So just to kind of give you guys a heads up that I've been plugged into that and keeping an ear out and listening to what they're having to say on all that stuff.
Okay. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm veering off from my original thought on on items from chair and commission members. Reports like that can be underneath committee reports and scheduled meetings. Items from chair and commission members is time for individual members to bring forth ideas or concerns to the full board. Official action will not be taken on any items brought forth. Directions will be given back before the full board for future consideration. These are items that you could possibly be concerned about, you want information back from staff or department heads or so forth.
So Chairman,
Just go back, yeah, we can give those reports underneath.
but this isn't, that's to pertaining to that, on the consent agenda, putting more things on consent agenda that don't have to be approved, that are not contentious, like some of the stuff today again on highway, stuff like that. I thought we were gonna talk about, or see what we can do about that still, wondering if that's moving forward. And then, again, we talked about it today, moving the, what'd you call it? I never get it right. For money that each
Yeah.
department can spend, because right now, you already know that spending authority is not gonna work very well with all the inflation and the things going up. Anything going on with that, Miss Holly?
Yeah, Joan is working on the research, going back and finding the motions that have been made in previous years for what exists for each department. And we're working on putting that together and bringing forth an updated policy for the board.
And asking each department
Yep.
what seems like a reasonable amount that makes
Spending authority.
spending
There
authority.
you
Thank you. Good word. All right, thank you. I appreciated that.
Okay. Yeah. But the public meeting, I guess, fell underneath that. It all works. But yeah, you're right. Okay, Deb, you're going first for
Go first?
committee reports.
Okay. So Fire Service Board, we're working on budgets. I missed that meeting, but I still had another meeting because we're working on budgets, making sure we're ready for 2024. We're finding that we're using some of the reserves for that special emergency fund. You already know. So there might be a little bit of change in there because when people are needing helicopters or needing certain things, it's gonna deplete that reserves that are supposed to be used for capital costs. So that might be something that you guys are going to see that's different. It's going to be like 50,000, but that's on average that they've been spending because you already know how many fires we've been having lately. So we didn't want to use all our reserves that were supposed to be used for radios and other things for the future because of those emergency funds. And you already know that fund isn't huge in the first place for the Fire Service Board. Central States Fair, you have a new chair and vice chair. Chair is Jerry Cope, really nice man, and Tanner Schilder, who are very nice. Our meetings are, I think, the 26th, 27th, and then we have Board of Equalization. Maybe it's 25th and 26th. That me and Travis both have equalization that morning, so Travis is going to volunteer, and I'm going to go to the board meeting. Just kidding. I'm teasing. So anyway, we also went through financials, of course, and what else did we talk about? Oh, some of the rules on people having concealed carry and that guns. So we're looking up some of that, make sure the rules and regulations. Travis is working with Bart and some other people to make sure, and Sheriff Mueller, to make sure those rules and regulations are followed. Plus, I think they're going to have a hard time regulating it through monitors or what do you call them?
Screening devices.
Screening devices. So that might be a little bit different. They're talking about the awards that came up for people, corporate of the year and different awards and where they want to put that at for the future. Remember, they used to always have the Stockman's Ball, but they don't have that. I asked why not, and they did give an explanation. A lot of things going on during Central State or stock show, but I thought also that was something that really the people looked forward to that came to town to go to that Stockman's Ball. A lot of the elders and people like that, you see their families and their friends. It was like a time for them all to get together. So just asking what was going to happen in the future with that. Let's see, what else do I have? Compensation, you guys are pretty much seeing it. We're doing wage scale. We're looking at 2 to 3% growth this year, just depending on how we do it. Cindy gave us that report and how we'd work that into wages and buildings and all that, and how that would affect the compensation committee for the future and wages. Pennington County Housing, we had we approved our budgets. We had a resignation from Fred Eisenbraun. He is going to work for a bank. He was working for one of the Norwood Heights or Norwood area, but now, right now, he switched from that also to, working for First Bank or one of the banks in town, and he just didn't have enough time to do the board, but he is up, if I'm correct, April 1st, Miss Holly, and our board asked if Brian would look at, there's a lady from Elevate, Laura something or other, that would be good, because we're going into RAD conversion. If Barry had someone that would be good for that, because again, we're switching how Pennington County Housing doesn't want to do as much public housing, that kind of thing. Let's see, I did attend Elevate program where they were encouraging people to run. They were making fun of how many people were running for mayor, that maybe there'd end up being 10 by the time they're done. But they were encouraging people to run and why they would run and why they wouldn't run. And mayor was there, and I wouldn't say they were encouraging words for people running. He was counting the days of 111 days left of his term. He said the first few years were good, 4 to 5 years were good, the rest were not so good. I don't know if that was, without trying to be mean. I love my job. I've always loved my job. Not everything is great in our jobs, but I don't count the days when I'm leaving. And I also think you have good and bad times when you're doing commission or politics. But overall, we're doing it for the public and we love what we do. And if we don't, we should probably resign. That's what I truly believe. When you forgot the focus was not about you and it was about your constituents, then you should not be on here anymore in politics. Because your public is that's who you represent, that's who, in your business, who you are benefiting. So I guess I would have gave, my bottom line is I would have gave a different story. I've been in here a long time, and you don't always love everything about it, but most of the time, you work, since I've been in the county, they're amazing, we have great staff. I would have talked about the staff, the 17 department heads and the employees in Pennington County, are awesome. That the job and being up here and improving a lot of things for the county and going by and getting to look at those properties or those things that we have done for our constituents and for the public. What we've done with our budget has been good, thanks to Holly and Cindy and some others and just a lot of things to be proud of, that those few things that weren't so positive would have never taken over at the end for me. It always would have been all the good things that I worked with my team in the county or the city to make a positive impact. So unfortunately, I didn't get that day, but I think some other people, some did, and a lot, I don't know if they'd run. And then also telling people and being political at a meeting and telling the Democrats to run as Republicans so they could win. Stuff like that was just, to me, crazy to say to people, but it might be a true statement to a certain extent, but yeah. Anyway, I would hope that if any of us got up there in front of people, that it wouldn't always be a positive all the time, but most of the time it should be, so people do want to run, that it'd be positive because Rapid City and Pennington County and South Dakota is pretty awesome, especially if you're from here. So, and maybe not if you're not either, but anyway.
Thanks, Deb.
Yep.
Ron?
Mr. Chair, well, I got stuck in Denver Thursday, Friday, part of Saturday, and I saw a lot of advertisements for folks running for the mayor of Denver. And June 6th will be the final decision on who's going to be the new mayor. But there's roughly 20 candidates for mayor in Denver right now that have officially signed up.
Wow.
And I'm looking at, and it shows where their contributions are, and there's like different sources, but the one lady's at, or one candidate's at 1,725,000 in contributions, and it goes all the way down to zero. But I found that pretty interesting. I heard a lot of campaign messages the last couple of days. So the planning commission, relative to vacation home rentals, there again, the majority of the people in attendance are owners of vacation home rentals. And we talked about parking, the 1 acre rule that was probably one of the topics that got a lot of coverage, but we're going to have a follow-up. This will be my last. I don't know how I got lucky to have 3 of these in 1 month, but I got one more on the 29th, and then I'm going to turn the reins over to somebody else. But I think it's good to have these meetings, because people have, and I got to agree, are we getting too overregulated? Because that's one of the questions, like, why are you doing this? The state regulates this. My only concern with vacation home rentals, they say you can only have a percentage of the single family residents in the county. I understand that, but what if one neighborhood, everybody wants to have a vacation home rental? I think we have to figure out, how do we control that density in one particular neighborhood? That's my concern. That's when people call me up. I don't want these next to me. Well, why do we invite them here if they don't have a voice? So I don't know how we're going to work on that, but if there's anything that I'd like to see worked on, is to control the density in a specific neighborhood. Getting off that, we had a TIF meeting today. We talked about 2 TIFs. This is one of the first meetings where one really got vetted out, and I appreciate Travis and his questions, because a TIF should be for the focus for the general public, the public's benefit, and shouldn't be focused for helping the developer financially be able to sit there and do his development. So today, it wasn't rubber stamped, it was vetted. The first one was vetted very well. It was probably 40 to 45 minute discussion, and it wasn't a unanimous vote. Keeping in mind that the recommendation from our committee goes to the city council, where they'll have the final vote. But I appreciate Travis and his questions, and I'll be the chair of that until after the elections. So I thought it was a really good meeting. And I was gone, so I didn't make a lot of these. Deb kind of touched base on the Pennington County housing redevelopment. Yesterday, Lloyd and I attended a Rapid City Regional Airport governance review and assessment, which we'll be talking more in executive session. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Ron. On my duties, air quality was rescheduled. I think it's probably this Friday, so I didn't attend that. I did fill in on the building committee meeting this week, or last week, and you guys seen that come forward, and we're talking about, they talked about the remodeling of the concourse. So there's nothing really, we did talk about the budget, when we looked at that 45 million, that was part of what the building committee is looking at. They had different options of what could be going forward and trying to stay within their means. So when you see that, commissioners, that's what they're trying to stay in that means, the best they can. So I can pass that on. The other meeting that I attended was, of course, the Community Relations Commission meeting that we had. But after that, I attended the Youth City Council meeting that we support. And some good news on that is at that Youth City Council meeting, they did pass a fundraising letter to be sent out. They drafted one and it got passed. Another big accomplishment that they passed at that meeting was they got their first liaison, they passed their first liaison appointment to the Community Relations Commission, which used to be formerly the Human Relations Commission. So now the Community Relations is going to have a youth city council member on their board attending as a liaison. 2 of them actually 3 wanted to. There was quite a few that wanted to be on, but this is the first liaison appointment that commission has, our city council and the commission has gotten. So it's going to be pretty amazing because they did their strategic planning, the youth city council did in early January, and a lot of what they're doing as far as community relations are in that strategic plan, and they lined up what the Community Relations Commission's doing, and they actually need the help of the youth to do a lot of that stuff. So that was exciting and passed on. With that, we did have a meeting with the airport on some stuff that they're looking at doing, and we'll have that discussion. But with that, I'd pass to Mr. Drews.
Okay.
And I promise I don't have anything else.
Well, thanks for filling in on that, one committee for me.
A building committee,
Yeah, building committee. And, also, I have you down as to, covering for me again tomorrow for one, so.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
So otherwise, library board, if you haven't been in the library lately, they did a little bit of minor remodeling downstairs, through where that conference room is and so forth across the hallway. And, looks pretty nice. Bookmobile is still on track for probably going on the road this fall. It's being shipped to several different plants at this point in time, getting things completed on it, but it'll probably arrive here late summer, complete, I think. So that's about all I have, and then the rest of it was on planning commission, and we've already dealt with the planning commission activities.
Pastor.
So Ron talked about the TIF this morning, the TIF meeting. So the one I have is the new Underwood Public meeting. I think it went well. Lots of good questions. Shannon, at the end of it, he actually sent me an email and thanking me for answering a lot of the questions and dealing with the budget and of course, some of the research that I had done. There were some questions about our budget versus Minnehaha County's budget and how come ours is so much more. And so I was able to answer those, I believe, and pretty well answered. And Shannon thanked me for that as well, because that kind of helped with everyone that was there to kind of keep it all in perspective. You can't compare us with Minnehaha just because of what we have to deal with versus what they have to deal with. So I think that meeting was a pretty good meeting. I've talked to Mary Williams. They were going to see about maybe having one out in the wall, but they're already starting their appeal process. So their hearing process. So it might be a little late for them to do theirs. So.
Yep. Kudos to you guys on that. I mean, even on the website, that's where I started listening to the one in Hill City was on the website. So, yeah, the recording of it was. So, nice job on that, you guys.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
I want to thank you for the info that you provided through television on several different subjects, including the tax issue. I think that all helps in trying to clarify or bringing people's attention to the fact that, the county does the collection, but not necessarily are establishing all these budgets that they believe that we're doing. I heard on the mayor's comment on yesterday is thing that he does to give his schedule for the week. That's one of the things he talked about also, is encouraging people to go to the county website and look at it and try to glean information from that if you have questions. So, but I think these meetings that Commissioner Roskinek and Commissioner Laster are holding, I think are very good.
Yeah, I agree.
The problem with the one in Hill City was there's one taxpayer that's totally upset. And that taxpayer put together a group of about 10 people. And I think, they kind of felt ganged up a little bit, and I don't see that happening at Johnson Siding. I think it's going to be a better level playing field, but we made it through it and got a lot of compliments.
Yeah. Did good. Next, we come to approval of the vouchers.
I'll move approval of $1,937,058.74. Oh, I'm sorry. I will move approval of the voucher for the Rose Inn LLC in the amount of $750.
Second.
And this, we have motion and approval of the $750, but this is with the abstention of Ms. Hadcock. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item motion 2 for the vouchers.
Now I'd move to approve the remaining vouchers, the amount of $1,936,308.74.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
seconded by Lassiter. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next comes executive session
Move to go into executive session.
for personnel issue SDCL 1-25-2-1 and annual department head evaluation and contractual pending litigation per SDCL 1-25-2-3. Moved by Roskinek,
Second.
seconded by Drews. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Look for a motion to come out of executive.
So moved.
Moved by Lassiter, seconded by
Adcock?
Hadcock. To come out of executive session, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. First, I'd recognize Commissioner Lassiter.
Move to place Alex Taylor Kinsey into a correctional officer position, DBMB 24, Step 1, $24.07 per hour, effective March 5, 2023.
Moved by Lassiter, seconded by
Yep.
Hadcock.
Yep.
Any discussion? Hear none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, I'd recognize Commissioner Hadcock.
I'm seeking approval to increase the annual salary of treasurer to $125,000.
You have to attach a name to that, don't you?
And a date.
Oh, move to approve the increase in annual salary for, sorry, you had the wrong area. Janet Saylor, Pennington County Treasurer, to $125,000 effective April 2nd, 2023.
Moved by Hadcock, seconded by Drews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Move to adjourn?
Moved by Lassiter, seconded by Hadcock to adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned.